Everyone being stuck at home right now means it's the perfect time to go into your garage, into your driveway, and get some work done on your vehicle. So my roommates and I recently bedlined one of our trucks. It's my roommate Hunter. He bought a 2002 Tacoma for about $5,500. And the powertrain on it is solid. It's at 140,000 miles, which is not too much on a Toyota. And it's actually had the frame replaced as part of a factory warranty. Those trucks of that generation suffered from some rust issues, but the factory actually replaced the frame. So mechanically, the thing is really sound, but aesthetically, it was bad. The paint was in terrible shape. So he wanted to do something with it that would be durable, make the truck look better, but mostly just make it last for a long time. So in this video, I'm gonna go through 3 pros and 3 cons of bedlining your entire vehicle.
Do you guys love trucks? If so, we've got a new podcast that will keep you entertained for hours, from on-road to off-road, from Raptors to Frontiers to Tacomas. Check out TFLtruck.com/podcast or go to wherever you get your favorite podcast, including Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Spotify.
The number 1 pro of bedlining your entire vehicle is durability, and that's the whole reason that we went for this. My roommate is somewhat of an imperfectionist.
Well, that's definitely not the right way of saying that.
Look at that. Look at that, it marked it up. Isn't that what I thought? We just wanted marks, you know?
You want to rough up the whole surface.
No smooth surfaces.
He doesn't really care about how the truck looks so much. He's not planning to take the thing to Pebble Beach. He uses it so that he can go skiing, off-roading, camping, climbing, anything like that. Another reason that we went for the Bedliner coating is because it's cheap. The specific one that he bought was from a company called Bedliner, and in total he spent round about $300 to get the spray gun, the actual liner itself, the tint, and the hardener. So that's not a bad price to change the entire finish of your vehicle. That being said, you do need a compressor to spray it the way that we did, and we already had a good compressor on hand, so that made the whole process a lot easier. If you don't have a compressor, that could be a couple $100 of additional money that you might have to spend. You can also roll Bedliner on, and I've read that some people have gotten pretty good results with a roll-on product. But I personally prefer spraying, and if you have access to a compressor, it's still a relatively cheap process. It's also quick. We spent maybe 5 hours on the entire thing, from sanding it to masking it to spraying it and pulling the masking tape off. It was a short process, and I'll talk more in detail about that process a little later on. I struggled to find many cons of doing this type of coating on your truck, but the first one that comes to mind for me is the way that it looks. There are a lot of trucks I've seen that just don't look quite right with this kind of texture on it. However, that isn't across the board, because some trucks do look great with Bedliner. Like my buddy Eli's 4Runner, even I will admit that old Toyota looks great the way that it is. But I've had friends whose trucks have proven both points. My roommate Connor's 98 Tacoma didn't look very good because when he sprayed it, he ran out of liner and it was sprayed too thin. Though, in all fairness, that truck drove much better than the way it looked because he swapped a 2JZ into it so that it made around 500 horsepower to all 4 wheels. All go and no show, that Tacoma was a serious sleeper. Since we put more effort into lining Hunter's truck, his looks surprisingly good considering it's just an old Tacoma that looks like a big piece of sandpaper. And now he can go drive his truck into trees and mailboxes and storefronts, and he doesn't have to worry about scuffs or dings. And even a lot of the dents that that truck already had have been covered up by the coating because it's thick enough that you can't really see some of the old imperfections in the metal. Depending on your preferences, you could either see the way that these trucks look with Bedliner on them as a pro or a con. I'm sort of neutral on that. It's not usually something that I go for, but in certain cases I do think it actually looks pretty good. I would say the primary con of doing a coating like this on your vehicle is that it's hard to remove. And again, that's the whole point of bedlining a vehicle, is that the bedliner is not going to come off, so it stays protected. Assuming that you painted it properly, it should be really difficult to remove, which means if for some reason you were to ever want to change the way that your vehicle looks, maybe go back to paint so that you could have better resale for whatever reason, that is going to be difficult to remove. There's some chemical strippers that you can use to help soften up that coating and try to get it off. I haven't personally tried to remove bedliner from a vehicle, but I would imagine doing the entirety of every body panel on a truck would be quite a job. So once you actually spray the bedliner on your truck, you're kind of committed. The last con of bedlining your truck, in my mind, isn't really much of a con at all. A lot of people claim that if you bedline your truck, it's going to make it significantly heavier because of how thick the coating is. And of course, the weight that it's going to add is going to depend on the thickness of the coating of bedliner that you put on it. But from the research that I've done, it should be on average about 0.7 of a pound per square foot that it adds in terms of weight, which is fairly negligible. And of course, if you put the entire kit with all of the liner and the hardener in your passenger seat, that's ultimately going to be the additional weight that it adds to your vehicle. Now, about the process of actually putting the bedliner on the truck, what we did is thoroughly sand it with 60 grit sandpaper so that the surface would be prepped. We then cleaned it off so that there was none of that sanding dust left over. We masked off the glass, we masked off the grill, covered the wheels, we pulled out a couple pieces like the taillights and the mirrors. Overall, that was the longest part of the process. Once all of the prep was finished, the spraying went fast and it even dried surprisingly quickly. It takes some time to fully cure all the way through, but the surface was dry enough to touch within minutes. There are some additional products you can buy to prime the surface before spraying the bedliner, and if it was my truck, I probably would have used that myself, but these coatings are tough enough that you can get away with spraying it directly over your sanded paint, and it won't come flying off anytime soon. We ended up using the majority of 2 kits to paint the truck, which is 8 bottles of liner. And they say you can get away with using only 1 kit on smaller vehicles, but it's better to have extra and not need it than end up like Connor and have your truck not look quite right. There's still some more work that we would like to do to Hunter's truck. I would personally like to black out the grille and the mirrors. I think that would make it look good. He's also waiting on a new bumper for the back end because his old one was pretty mangled. Besides that, we also need to roll on or spray on some bedliner in the actual bed of his truck, because even though he's got a nice spray on bedliner on the body panels of his truck, his actual bed has a drop-in bedliner. So those will all be things that we do going forwards, as well as probably dehazing the headlights. Whether you love it or hate it, bedliner is an awesome product. It's durable and it can look pretty cool on the right vehicle. It's really not a bad way to spend a morning of your weekend if you want to change the way that your vehicle looks. If you want a fast, tough finish, it really is a good option. Anyways, that's all for this video. Let us know in the comments what you all think of Bedline trucks. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Are you somewhere in the middle like me? But as always, this is Intern Case with the Fast Lane Car. Thanks everyone for watching, and be sure to go back to TFL Truck, TFL Car, and TFL Off-Road for more news, views, and real-world reviews. Stay safe.